Secretariat, please. Secretariat, please, can we have the national anthem displayed? So, we all read together. O God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us
to build a nation
where
no man is oppressed, and so with peace and plenty,
Nigeria
may be blessed.
Amen. Amen. The president of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, Professor Raymond Bello, past presidents and council members of the Academy who have joined us today, the special advisor on climate change and circular economy, Lagos State Government, Mrs. Titilayo Oshodi, representative of the Director General, National Council Climate Change Secretariat, Mrs. Amudi Chioma Felicitas Ede, distinguished fellows, ladies and gentlemen. I am Engineer Mrs. Christy Adelowo, the Honorary Secretary of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, and on behalf of the President and Council of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, it is my privilege and honor to welcome you to today's webinar titled Achieving Nigeria's Sustainability and Climate Change Goals, Challenges, Opportunities, and Practice. Before proceeding, distinguished fellows and our esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to acknowledge in absentia the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Ms. Amina Mohammed, who is delivering the special address. I would also like to specially welcome our guest speakers who are present with us. They will be formally introduced to us later. And for the benefit of our guests, the Nigerian Academy of Engineering is a think tank comprising eminent Nigerian and foreign professionals across all disciplines and industry sectors of engineering, and who provide leadership on national engineering and technological matters in Nigeria. The Academy also offers a national platform for experts to pool their experience and insights so they can proffer advice to the federal government of Nigeria and private organizations on policy making, particularly on technological matters. And today's webinar on achieving Nigeria's sustainability and climate change goals, challenges, opportunities, and practice is one of such platforms. As we all know, climate change remains one of the most significant challenges facing Nigeria and other communities across the world. We already experiencing the severe impacts of climate change. We have floods, desertification, coastal erosion, heat waves, and all these challenges threaten livelihoods, economic growth, sustainable development, and underscores the urgent need for action. Yet, within these challenges, there lies opportunities to provide or build a more sustainable, resilient, and prosperous future for our country, Nigeria. So today's webinar offers a unique opportunity to reflect on how Nigeria can accelerate progress towards its sustainability and climate goals through effective policies, innovation, and partnerships, and recommend practical actions to accelerate progress. And of course, there could be no better person to guide this conversation than our distinguished guest speaker, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Ms. Amina Mohammed, whose work continues to champion sustainable development and climate change action on the global stage. So if we look at the program displayed on our screen, this webinar is scheduled to be just under 2 hours. And there's also time allotted to question and answers at the end of. Please, can you scroll down, Secretariat? Yes, so we have time for discussions and for us to air our views. Please we'll appreciate if you write your comments, questions, or whatever you have on the chat box provided on your device. And also would like to inform you that there'll be an opportunity to obtain a recording of this webinar. It will be available to you on request. So once again, I'd like to thank you for your presence and participation. And I wish everyone a productive and enlightening session. Without wasting much time, may I invite the president of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering for his welcome address. Mr. President, sir. Mr.
Thank
President.
you very much, Press Secretary. Good afternoon to all our guests, and particularly to our past presidents and fellows of the Academy, as well as the guest speakers today, particularly the Deputy Secretary General of the UN, Excellency Ms. Amina Mohammed, as well as the Special Advisor to Climate Change in Lagos State, and the President of the Director General National Council on Climate Change. We appreciate your being with us today. As we know, climate change matters are likely engineering in nature. And the engineers get involved with environment and climate change matters through their practice, whether active practice or research or consultancy or manufacturing. And that's where the Academy comes in. Because the Academy has a pool of experienced people who are members, fellows from all these areas of practice. And our committee on the environment comprises of people in these areas or with this program, and as such have that responsibility and the ability to really deal with the topic for today, that is how to really have a sustainable climate change goal achieved for Nigeria. And we want to look at the challenges, opportunities, and practice. So, to be an interesting discourse today, particularly where we have a special address by Excellency Mr. Amina Mohammed, who has been the Minister of Environment in Nigeria, who started a major role, a major push on this direction. And she's continuing to do that in the world, on the global stage. Such awards will be golden for us today, where we really look at how we come up at the end of this discourse, and where Academy can come in to support the NCCC on its areas of expertise and how to achieve the goals in the future. So I want to welcome us all to today's webinar, and I believe at the end of the webinar, we'll all be well informed and we'll have some to take home. So without wasting more time, let me hand over to the Technical Secretary, who will be the one that will direct the affair today. So over to you, Dr. Kuka, to follow us on today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my greetings and respects to everyone in attendance. The introductions have been made. My task is to speak about the presentations themselves. Our emphasis on this is on implementation and execution. In-house, we have several committees dealing with climate change. Environment and Climate Change Committee is the point one. Others have an involvement. There's the Power Committee. To a certain extent, the Oil and Gas Committee, as a fossil fuel committee, is also involved. And then finally, there's a technical committee that coordinates all of these activities. And implementation and execution emerged as a key issue which we need to address. To the papers themselves, we have the presentation by Her Excellency, the Deputy Secretary General, and we have to thank Engineer Eric Onyewu for facilitating that. We have a good result, so the Academy thanks him for his efforts. He's a fellow of the Academy, and he helped us with that connection. We also have Mrs. Titilayo Oshodi, the Special Advisor on Climate Change and Circular Economy of Lagos State. Lagos is in a unique position in the country. The country is severely affected by climate change. The southwestern region is is the least severely affected of them all. But Lagos is a mega city. It is far and away the largest metropolis in the country. It is, however, the only major city that is on the coast. So there are important issues for Lagos to address in that area. And we are glad that they have a special advisor on that subject. And as the President says, we look forward to meeting with them. The National Council on Climate Change is, in accordance with the Climate Change Act, the entity responsible for addressing climate change in Nigeria. We have Mrs. Amudi Chioma Felicitas Eze from the council. Her expertise is in monitoring, reporting, and verification. So she will speak to us about Nigeria's nationally determined contribution, which was submitted to UNFCCC, the United Nations organization of which Ms. Amina Mohammed is the Deputy Secretary General, and how Nigeria is addressing this matter. Then finally, we have our own in-house expert, Professor Sam Adefila, whom I first got to meet in the early 2000s when he was a professor at Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, and I went there to represent my organization. He's had an excellent academic career, and he's retired now, but he is still involved, he has an heavy involvement in the climate change activity, and is the chairman of Engineering and Environmental Services Limited. So I have given a brief outline of what is happening. I just want to repeat what the Honorary Secretary said. If you have any questions or comments, please put them on the chat box and they will be dealt with. With that, can we now proceed to the address by Her Excellency, Ms. Amina Mohammed?
Excellencies, distinguished fellows of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to join you for this webinar, and thank you to the Nigerian Academy of Engineering for convening us around this important topic. This is a moment of opportunity. It is also a moment of responsibility. Next week, the Secretary-General will deliver a major speech on the margins of the London Climate Action Week, addressing the global response to the climate and energy crises as the UN system is accelerating implementing his climate strategy. Nigeria's National Climate Plan, its nationally determined contributions submitted in September last year, is more than a climate document. It is a blueprint for a better, stronger, and more resilient economy. It sets out a pathway for economic-wide action backed by concrete measures across key sectors and anchored in development, resilience, and opportunity. This could not be more important. Across Nigeria, climate impacts are intensifying, from floods and coastal erosion to drought, extreme heat, and changing rainfall patterns. These are no longer distant risks. They are shaping lives, livelihoods, infrastructure, food systems, and communities today. With predictions of a 2026 El Niño, every investment must turn into a long-term resilience and preparedness. We can no longer build infrastructure or design technology based on yesterday's climate. We must build and design for the warmer, more uncertain climate of the future. And that is why this conversation matters. Engineers are central to moving from commitments on paper to projects on the ground. You're the people who will help turn ambition into systems, structures, technologies, and solutions that can endure. You're helping to engineer a better future for Nigeria and, by extension, the world. We must act with urgency to transition away from fossil fuels and towards renewables, and by reducing methane from fossil fuels, waste, and food systems. But it must be a just transition, one that also embraces the country's growth. Climate action today is not only about reducing emissions, it will be about economic transformation. It will be about growth, jobs, clean and renewable energy, food security, resilient infrastructure, an opportunity for young people. Around the world, the clean energy transition is accelerating. This is now a major driver of investment, innovation and competitiveness, an industry worth trillions of dollars and growing at pace. Nigeria must not be left behind. We are well positioned to benefit from this transition through renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, resilient infrastructure, innovation, and the talent of its people. But we must also be clear-eyed about the challenges. Progress will require closing finance gaps. It will require stronger infrastructure. It will require better coordination across sectors and levels of government. It will also require technical capacity, institutional capacity, and delivery capacity. It will require leadership. And that is why Nigeria's whole of economy, whole of society approach is so important. Government cannot do this alone. The transition will be delivered through partnerships, genuine partnerships with engineers, businesses, communities, universities, innovators, financiers, and development partners all playing their part. This is where the Nigerian Academy of Engineering has such an important role to play. Engineering leadership is critical to designing practical solutions, advancing innovation, reducing risk, lowering our emissions, and building the infrastructure that can withstand the pressures of a changing climate. The task before us is not simply to respond to climate change. It is to build differently, to plan differently, to invest differently, and to deliver differently. The United Nations is already supporting Nigeria to translate its NDC into investment plans and bankable projects, while helping to unlock new sources of finance. And the UN stands ready to continue accompanying Nigeria on the path from ambition to implementation, accelerating delivery, supporting partnerships, and helping turn climate commitments into results for people. The choices we make now will shape Nigeria's future for decades to come. With ambition, discipline, and partnership, Nigeria could seize the opportunities of this transition and deliver sustainable growth, resilience, and prosperity for all. I thank you.
Okay. Yes, Secretariat, thank you very much for airing that message. The message is eloquent and articulate, and it addresses the core concern of execution and implementation, and the role engineers and the Nigerian Academy of Engineering has to play in that respect. If there are comments, please put them on the chat box. We shall give feedback to Her Excellency from this webinar. So with that, so that we can keep up with our time, please, do we have the special advisor from Lagos State with us? Secretariat, do we have the special advisor with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Please proceed, Mrs. Oshodi. We are delighted to have you here. And like we said, there are important concerns of Lagos in particular. So we trust that you would speak about that and of course, part of the country as a whole. You're welcome to this webinar, and we look forward to what you have to say. Over to you, please.
Okay, then. I think because I was told I was going to be doing a presentation, can I share my screen?
Please do. Please do.
Okay, just a moment. Right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. And good afternoon once again. An absolute pleasure to be here. So I will be addressing on a topic that has been curated around achieving Nigeria's sustainability and climate change goals. And I'm going to start to distill from what the situation is. I think I'm going to try and move as fast as possible, as I just discovered that I have about 15 to 20 minutes here. So we can, essentially just start from the story of Nigeria, as we know, regarded as the global south. Essentially one of the most vulnerable countries globally. And we are grappling
Sorry, please, can everybody who accept the presenter, please mute. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have very, very grappling situations around our climate trajectory, cutting across flooding into coastal erosions across the state. One of the things that we also have to grapple with as a challenge in Lagos as we continue to rise above sea level and our coastal areas begin to recede, continue to recede. Everybody can attest to rising temperatures across board, not only limited to Lagos alone. We suffer extreme heat and, of course, desertification, more from an aspect of deforestation and also the effects of the pressure on our systems, our food systems and the infrastructure and livelihoods. From a global perspective, we can see that we do not just have that framework or that target as a national entity, but we also have what has been impressed upon us from the UNFCCC for us to begin to establish our targets. And so for us in Lagos, what we've done is design what we can call our state-determined contributions that have essentially been modeled around implementing a framework from the nationally determined contributions to ensure that the national policy direction at the federal level become domesticated and we can localize it to our climate, economic, and our social realities. So we use our SDCs as a model to aggregate, to visualize, and to manage a pipeline of bankable and objectively high impact green economy projects across various sectors. Because, like I said again, based on the mandate that is given from a climate action perspective, implementation to be able to achieve our adaptation models and to be able to build resilience across our communities must be fragmented. And so we have used our SDCs as a pivot distilled from the national determined contributions to help us in driving our framework. You would also notice that as we begin to distill, into a state level, we can see that there are layerings and there's a flow of how we find states becoming very critical in not only performing climate action from an integrity perspective, but also to be able to monitor and evaluate. And so our policies are becoming more and more ingrained. We want to be able to translate those policies into implementation, be able to get tangibility into the hands of the everyday person, from relations to behavioral to norms, and infrastructure then becomes the vehicle, becomes the tool, where we can begin to establish some level of tangibility and interaction with the communities in terms of having to adopt the right climate resilient behavior. We get this through various pipeline and projects into the communities. As I continue with this conversation, you'll be able to see some of the things that we have done to be able to engage and make climate action or sustainable living more practical, and getting the nuance, getting the tradition, getting the behavioral attitudes frameworked or factored into our frameworks so that we can make it more adoptable, we can make it more relatable for the citizens with the solutions that we provide. So our challenges, especially from a governance or from a regional perspective, would be that we're facing quite a number of barriers that can help in slowing down achieving the UNFCCC mandate upon us. But essentially, we will be distilling a lot as I continue into the area of finance. Capital is really, really very critical. And one of the things that can help us in achieving a high integrity climate resonance is in the influx and the infusion of as much funding as possible. How do we want to be able to achieve that? Some of those things I will quickly go into as we go on. We do also have a bad, or if I can call it, an inadequate data aggregation or data collection model or pattern or culture, if I can call it that. Our data systems are weak. We're not able to effectively track emissions. We do not even understand how to be able to evaluate our performance in those places. There are coordinations across sectors and industries within the institutions, within the governing body that seems quite fragmented. There are lots of silo working when essentially some of the resilient indicators for us to be able to be climate active, is partnership and collaboration in the SDCs, in the SDGs. That's one of the things that we're still trying to overcome. Our operations capacity in terms of knowledge, in terms of execution, in terms of applying the knowledge is also quite inadequate. And of course, urbanization is affecting our urbanization and Clearly, because we have a rising population, so many aspects in the areas of migration also put a lot of pressure on infrastructure and on our population. So, but in all of that, we can all essentially begin to talk about this as a flip, the flip side of where we're going, or because we can state all of this as our problems and our challenges. For instance, in Lagos, our waste management and sanitation programs can be quite inundating because we're inadequately pressurized by the numbers and the population in Lagos. And these complexities present a budget misappropriation for us because we are always chasing after the increasing number of migration that comes in, and it hits very hard on all of our infrastructure, our water, our transport, our energy. So at each point in time when we think that we're providing a solution, we're running after a rapid growing urban situation. And so ministries, agencies, contractors, service providers they have to continue to determine their service level, and we have to continue trying to find a way to sustain and making them as effective as possible. Same thing with our waste management infrastructure as well. These are practices and service deliveries that depend on the coordination between the public sector participators, who are our operators, between our environment regulators, local government structures, and community system. But it also then, means that there are opportunities. We can flip it around and say that these are opportunities. And in our office, we see circular economy as an approach to addressing the issue of climate change. We also see it as a way to be able to pattern the mindset from looking at these things as an environmental problem, but as a circular economy opportunity, and using that model to be able to build economic propensity within our economy. Nigeria is increasingly focused on promoting a circular economy approach to waste management, and we know that there are opportunities that are being offered in the area of resource recovery and economic development. And there are quite a number of, solutions that we are beginning to localize right now based on a state and a local government regulation. And some of the ones that we in Lagos have begun to embark upon is what we call the EcoCirculate program. We drive EcoCirculate as a pipeline project to achieve climate literacy, to deepen access to market for our young MSMEs, because they represent the entities that we position deliberately in communities to be able to interact with the household members for waste valorization. We also drive economic empowerment by simulating the interaction of exchange of waste for value. And it cuts across various types of value. We have simulated projects of waste to school fees in underserved communities. We have simulated waste in exchange for agricultural produce. We have done it in exchange for money, in exchange for data. And that in the span of that ecosystem, we have worked with private sector organizations who are driven in the area of microfinance, who provide services with transport infrastructure or transport operation. We've also worked with public sector as well, in particular Lamata, in driving technology, in leveraging technology to use the Cowrie card for communities where they would rather have their waste in exchange for a Cowrie card discount for transportation. And these are some of the things that we have done in about 10 different communities. And we're beginning to have conversations with private sector entities in achieving ESG and EPR, extended producers responsibility indicators for them to be able to use these vehicles to track, to monitor, and also to be able to drive their own mandates as it is required of them. So what we do is in those conversations, we deepen the level of investment in waste management infrastructure, because once we go to these communities and we're able to whet their appetites to see that their waste do not need to be irresponsibly discarded anymore, and that they can have it in exchange for any form of value that is unique or that is required by them, we then begin to speak to private sector in establishing collection hubs. And that's where an investment begins to come in. And then we begin to look at the climate finance based on data that will be aggregated in those spaces. We use it also to be able to increase stakeholder participation for collaboration, because the idea is for us to be able to reduce the inefficiency in waste generation, in waste collection, and also be able to deepen treatment, and foster more disposal programs within those spaces. We believe that when we continue to deepen financialization and we can include operationalization into it, public participation will be heightened. Also, capital mobilization, there's so many areas that we've begun to have blended climate finance literacy. And we're doing this at scale, with our financial institutions. First, we want to be able to secure proper structured financing models so that we can prioritize climate projects, just like the ones that I have mentioned, the one that I have mentioned right now. And, they are curated. There are ones like that are curated across industries like the energy, like transport, and also in waste. We want to be able to use these opportunities and this pipeline to also strengthen technical partnerships for implementation. Why? The idea for us is to be able to de-risk and accelerate project delivery through high-quality technical partnerships with financial institutions and every related institution within that monetization space. Our state-determined contribution framework is also one that we have positioned so that we can begin to propel Nigeria and Africa as a benchmark for subnational climate governance, and also be able to expand climate investment readiness amongst financial institutions, amongst FMCGs, amongst capital market practitioners, so that Lagos can also be seen as a credible subnational climate investment destination. In the area of energy transition, we know that there is a widespread of underserved, especially in the rural area. Women are becoming more of the target. If there's any gender, or if there's any recipient of climate impact, I think it is the women and the children that hit the most. Access to clean energy cannot be underemphasized. It cannot be undermined in any way. So there's a need for us to be able to start to drive economic growth within that space. One of the projects that we have also been able to launch, and it is doing quite well, and we've also started conversations with the private sector for investment, is our clean cooking stove. And the Clean Cook Stove is a clean energy project that has carry on a program of activities with it, because it addresses household level energy access. It addresses health outcomes. It reduces environmental impact by form of deforestation, by improving declining deforestation, by easing economic burden on the vulnerable community. And like I said again, our implementation have started in communities. We have done a kitchen performance test because we've been able to distribute 10 of those Clean Cook stoves in Makoko. And our tests are revealing that there are cleaner energy solutions. It's revealing that there is social inclusion, health performance activities have increased, cleaner air because of the less inhalation of bad fumes. The economic opportunity are also expanding because the ladies are beginning to see how they can begin to work based on shorter time on cooking, so they can diversify and begin to look for opportunities for economic propensity in any way. For urban infrastructure, we know that for anything that we're going to do, our waste management infrastructure, our renewable energy infrastructure, all of those things represent the level of resilience that we can build in our society. And so the problem is not only for us to be able to collect waste and efficiently do so, but we need to also begin to be more deliberate about accurate data collection. And that's where we want to be able to have the right figures from collection, the right figures from the transportation for disposal, the right figures for managing the waste, the right figures to be able to appropriate, the economic and the commercial trajectory, in those spaces. Our population that continues to rise only unlocks that reason or that basis for us to be able to unlock job, to be able to unlock wealth, and to be able to unlock the sort of technology that will be required for efficiency and for optimization. So from all of the dysfunctions within our urban infrastructure, it gives us room to be able to improve our collection and disposal agenda, to be able to improve coverage. There are some areas in Lagos, if I want to use it as a case study again, where there are no collection hubs. Some of the areas that we have gone to, we begin to work with the private sector to be able to put those sorts of infrastructure in place. Ultimately, what we want to do is be able to eliminate environmental and health hazards through incentivization, because we understand that the conversation for climate change or for circular economy cannot be altruistic anymore. We have to make it economically viable. And that's the only way that we can begin to we can begin to transition the minds of people to migrating from a linear economy or from a linear style of living to a circular style. And that's where commerce also begins to play a role. We have to ensure that we're developing our human capital portfolio. We need to ensure that as we begin to get more of the big boys in the private sector involved in climate investment, we must also begin to deepen climate literacy programs. We must be able to drive green entrepreneurship clinics. We must ensure that there is banking awareness, with every MSME that is working, so that they are becoming more mindful about sustainable practices. They're embedding sustainability into their operations, into their logistics, into their value chain. And they're also beginning to capture data so that they're able to benchmark it and use it, for high integrity data performance for ESG that ultimately speaks to sustainable finance and opportunity for investment facility. Financial inclusion is also one of the things that we also try to develop where we're talking about our human capital. One of the things that we do, and I will talk about our framework as quickly as possible at the OCC, because the people development pillar is pulled from our human capacity or our human capital development perspective. Now, so our goal ultimately is to ensure that we're driving and we're deepening climate intelligence that makes accessible commercial activity available. People can take control into their hands in their nooks and their crannies in their community, and we can lessen the burden on the infrastructure from the government that is inadequate. And we can also be able to deepen and promote some level of diversification if we're able to reduce the level of enforcement into incentivization, and we can diversify into more infrastructure for the people. So here we are, our Lagos State climate approach at the Office of Climate Change and Circular Economy. And it's essentially on 5 pillars: people, finance, data, policy, and commerce. And like it is said there, people development, like I said, is really pulled and distilled from a human capital development perspective: learning, training, capacity building, deepening financial inclusion, helping them to be able to understand through the various cadres, through the various levels and sectors, how climate literacy is unique, how it is relative to them, how opportunities are available, and what sort of credit risk assessment, especially for young businesses or for private sector in the area of capacity building, what sort of carbon accounting literacy are they supposed to take into consideration? What sort of relationships, do they need to deepen, in climate literacy, in climate advocacy? And in the financial inclusion area, how do we engender a culture of green financing? What sort of blended finance systems can we begin to educate people on for traders, for young entrepreneurs? Can we look at areas of cooperative system? We have what we call our economy business network, and that's one of the things that we have also started to simulate with them in creating, businesses. We have about 500 of them right now, cutting across various sectors, and we've developed program of activities according to the sectors which each entity operates in. And those program of activities is being captured into a pipeline project that can be presented on a database, and with a cooperative covering over it, we give the ability to be able to bulk purchase, to be able to bulk negotiate, and also be able to have the sort of volume that is needed, for climate finance or for carbon asset management. Community climate financing schemes are also one of the things that we're beginning to foster and promote among our young businesses. And of course, the women and the youth gender is also one of the very critical areas that we want to provide enterprise support for. And then again, data, like I said, we can't undermine the power of data. It must be more instructive. We must be more deliberate about that. It is not a culture that we're predisposed to, but it is something that has to be stated, and we have to be able to drive technology. And I'm going to just touch a little bit on that as we quickly continue. But let me just explain a little bit about the finance aspect. I'd like to just mention one of the programs that we're also doing, having to come to terms with the fact that even with the traditional banking system, there's still a bit of a dysfunction, or there's a bit of gap in the knowledge of sustainable finance or green finance. So because we know that Lagos State is, uniquely positioned to demonstrate that new model of subnational climate finance, we want to be able to mobilize local capital pools, alongside international finance. We want to be able to create confidence through our institution, clarity throughout, to coordinate through our institution, our financial institutions, and be able to align climate actions with economic growth, with employment, and with fiscal resilience. So the Climate Finance Preparedness Clinics is a public-private approach that we have designed, that is going to be taking place very, very soon. And it's essentially designed to support the Lagos State green economy by lowering informational and perceived risk barriers. It is targeted towards the financial institutions and all the related entities around, credit risk analysts, insurance brokers, pension people, the pension practitioners, the MFBs, what have you, within that space. And we want to be able to achieve the following thing. We want to be able to ensure that they have the right sort of lending, that can help to flow a finance pipeline. We want to be able to establish a climate defense and catalytic fund, that can provide easy local financial institutions of all sizes with easy entry and exit, so that we're able to benchmark the returns on investment on capital expenditure in the changing green projects that we have also designed and lined up. We want to establish a reward scheme, because we know that government is always seen as the one that comes with the stick. But Also in the area to incentivize, eco-labeling has become a model for us to use as an incentive so that participating companies can be rewarded on their ESG performance. They can have ratings that can be evaluated through climate resilient solutions, and we can also recognize them as it is, against the metrics of the global frameworks. So all of this enables us to be able to do, because we're able to derive a technology that is seated within the DMRV. And DMRV essentially means for us to be able to measure, to be able to record and be able to verify, measure, record, report, and verify data. It helps us to be able to drive the necessary financing when we're able to capture these areas. So under our commerce, circular systems, and market-driven green jobs, like I said again, the support that we give to our MSMEs, ensuring that our mechanisms for support are adequate enough. There are also areas where we provide certifications in ESG. The Climate Finance Preparedness Clinic is one of the ways that we begin to identify the rising and the very vibrant compliant MSMEs and private sectors, so that we're able to have that shared objective of building a financially inclusive and climate resilient economy. At the end of the day, what we're going to be doing is, driving that sort of longevity for recyclables, for repurposable, for durable products. We can ensure that the indicators for resource efficiency, for us to be able to minimize waste and also be able to deepen renewable energy for production will also be ascertained, and waste can be as reduced as possible. Under our people, so I think that I've already started to talk essentially about all of this. These are just the slides that capture a breakdown of these pillars that I have talked about. I can send that over, as long as soon as we're done. But these pillars essentially are our tools, and they are vehicles in being able to interconnect with the private sector and the community member as the last mile agenda proponents for us. Under our people, I think I've spoken a bit about the people one. Under our data, again, it's one of the things that is really, really very, very critical. If we want to be able to play in the global space and in sustainable finance for the green economy, data becomes the axiom. It is essential for us to be able to measure nationally determined contributions implementation. And one of the things that we have also proudly been able to achieve is a tool called the Carbon IQ, which we're actively strengthening. And that's one of the things that we're going to be demonstrating at the clinic, finance preparedness, for the finance preparedness clinic, because we understand that decarbonization has to be tracked. ESG data has to be monitored. Intelligence data is essentially the foundation for climate capital. And so data has to be verified. Emissions reporting has to be verified. We have to be able to design methodologies, for our decarbonization, as it is unique to us. We will cut across the various scopes, scope 1 and scope 2 and scope 3 for all the levels of transparency that is required. We need to be able to disclose our climate risk so that we can factor them into the resilient solutions that is being designed for us as a transition. And we essentially have to be able to benchmark these performances against sustainability metrics. And our infrastructure gives us that room, because we're able to measure, report, and verify. And we can also establish the carbon accounting frameworks as we work with
Sorry, Madam Special Advisor. I mean, I hope you're close to the end, because you've taken quite some time.
I will.
Thank you.
I will take it back to the last. So the policy is obviously the last, and of course the policy essentially corroborates all of the other methods, all of the components of the pillars that I have just essentially explained, because at the end of the day, it's the policy that provides the regulatory framework that helps the operationalizations from it. So our key takeaways essentially is that we must be human-centered. We must be able to accelerate partnerships, across all of the structure that we have put in place. Our governing capacity must also be deepened so that we're able to improve the level of accountability across board. Execution cannot be without finance. Finance is very, very critical. And of course, commerce is the oil that helps us to be able to level set and get into that high GDP level that we require. So what are our recommendations? We need to have actionable roadmap for national progress, right? To expand subnational climate finance across mechanisms, to strengthen our MRV systems, to scale the institutional implementation of our SDCs, deepen structural federal state coordination, invest heavily in circular economy models, and provide institutional support for localized climate innovation systems. And of course, our way forward to move decisively, move on away from the talk shop and move into as much implementation as possible as we continue to strengthen our local institutional and technical capacity, and then mobilize all the finance streams for capital mobilization, scale subnational solutions, and invest heavily in people and green innovation. Thank you so much for the time, and wish you all the best. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Special Advisor. I would first of all tell everybody that it looks as if we may overrun our timetable, but with what we are listening to, I think we need to give our presenters time to put everything forward. It's of great value to us. So we probably will take a bit longer than we had planned, but I think it is well worth our while. Madam Special Advisor, I trust that you would make the presentation available to us. All the presentation material that we have goes into our proceedings. It also, we are also now working on producing publications on the advocacy that emerges from the Nigerian Academy of Engineering in document form. So every presentation is important and goes into our archives and into our publications, which will also be presented to all the stakeholders in the country. I'm glad you're around for the question and answers and discussion sessions, at which there's much on the chat box to which we look forward to your responding. So once again, thank you very much, Madam Special Advisor. Now, National Council on Climate Change, I believe we have the representative here. Please, are you there, please?
Yes, I am. Good evening from here.
Good evening, yes. Do you want to share your screen or you want to send your presentation to us?
I can try to share my screen.
Okay, please share your screen and we look forward to your presentation. I would like to, before you start, I would like everyone to know that you are actually out of the country and have left another engagement with the UNFCCC to speak to us today. So please can people mute? So
it's actually coming from my background. Apologies for that.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll live with that. So, she is abroad and she has left another conference in which she is participating to address us. So thank you very much and we look forward to your presentation. Please proceed.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present at this very important webinar, and apologies for also being in a very unconducive environment. I am basically in SB 64 in Bonn in Germany, where we are negotiating on further climate actions. And again, apologies for Gigi not being here today. She has other assignment under the her mandate from the presidency. Basically, I'm under the staircase because if you know the background of Bonn, everywhere is very noisy, so I can't get a very quiet place to actually have this very important meeting. And I can't leave the premises because I have a 6 to 7 o'clock, 8 to 9 o'clock meeting today as well. So my name is Chioma. I am the National Desk Officer for the NDC and also the Long-Time Low Emission Development Strategy. I want to specially thank Mrs. Oshodi. I think she preempted my presentation, which makes it more easier for me to just go through my slides. And these slides, I actually put it up not quite long because I wasn't meant to do a slide. I was meant to do maybe a goodwill message from the DG, but I felt presenting Nigeria NDC 3.0 would have been a better approach to this very important forum and the calibers of people that is here, because these are the people we're actually looking for to make sure that the activities we have communicated on paper is being implemented and become actionable. So the NDC 3.0 this is our entire vision about the NDC 3.0. The NDC 3.0 has reaffirms Nigeria's determination to tackle the global climate crisis and marks a significant step in its ambition. And the beauty of the NDC 3.0 is that it has shifted from the normal business as usual that was submitted in 1 and 2 to economy-wide emission reduction targets. And the NDC 3.0 is like a vehicle that will transmit us to 2060 net zero goal that we set for ourselves. And we communicated that at Glasgow in 2021. And the preparation of this NDC was basically informed by what they call the global stock take, which the global community conducted in 2023 and recommended activities and actions and elements that could enrich countries in preparing a new NDC goals. This also was also informed by what they call the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC report, which is tailored towards limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And again, nationally, we cannot jeopardize the objective. The entire objective is to reduce emission, but again, it's rooted in building resilient and equitable growth and just transition that leaves no one behind at all. Then if you look at the NDC 3.0 that we have communicated, we did the IPCC sectors, which is the LULUCF called the land use changes and forestry, and potentially, okay, let me also tell you that we maintained the base year of 2018, which was what we used in 2020 submission. That's 2020 against 2021 submission called the NDC 2.0. So we maintain the base year so that we'll have transparency in what the aggregation of the emission that Nigeria intends to reduce from now to 2030. And aggregation is 573.5 metric tons of CO2. And potentially the LULUCF has the potential of reducing about 347.9 metric tons of CO2. Energy sector has the potential of reducing about 134.6 metric tons of CO2. Industrial process and product use, called the IPPU under the IPCC guideline, will reduce about 14.0 metric tons of CO2. Then waste sector will reduce about 12.5 metric tons of CO2. Agriculture has the potential of reducing about 1.2 metric tons of CO2. So basically, holistically, this is the potential that we have and the sectors responsible for those potential under the NDC 3.0. Then the financial needs, this is where the big talk is. Estimatedly, we are envisaging that we have access to $337 billion US. And this has been broken down into the sector needs. Then mitigation is about 195 billion US dollars, which represent about 57.8% of the needed fund. Adaptation will take about $141.5 billion, which is about 42.1 billion dollars. Action for climate enhancement, which is called the AIDS, will take about 0.1% of the whole money, which is about 0.5 billion US dollars. And again, we did not stop from the financial needs. We aggregated these financial needs among where the sources, domestic sources, which is called the unconditional, is about 20%, representing about 67 billion US dollars. Then international funding, which is about called the conditional, represent about 80% of the needed fund, which is about $270 billion. Then when it comes to the process of the MRV, I don't know why my slide is not showing from the beginning, but I can actually speak to it. This is the process that we have undertaken, not only in the development of Nigeria's NDC, but also in we are going to also be taken in its preparation as well. The very first pillar that is not showing here. Maybe if I remove it from the slideshow, it will actually show, but let me know if it can happen like that. Can you see it? Can someone
yes, we
actually
can see it.
confirm?
Yes, we can see
Okay.
it. We can see it. Proceed.
Okay, so the very first the pillar is planning and the framework design. So this is actually what we undertook before we developed the NDC. We did a lot of defining a MRV objective, aligning it with the NDC target, setting sectoral MRV framework, which was done in ad hoc way. But with the support that we have received from ICAT and also the European Union, Nigeria is trying to operationalize the institutional MRV system with also different sectoral approach towards that MRV system. We are not only stopping that there, we have identified what are the capacity needs for all the stakeholders, and also developing a customized template that we'll be using to collate data. And also we are trying to build the capacities of the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, capacities of federal MDAs, and also trickling down to state government and community organizations, and not only government institutions, but also other relevant stakeholders like the private sectors, the CSOs, the NGOs, and also even the people living with disability. And gender component of this MRV system is not only going to also be overlooked. So comprehensively, we will have what they call the National Institutional MRV System, which has a sectoral approach where they will have subsectors and who and how to track progress, and also to collate data that is accessible, credible, and also very applicable in terms of the needs of the climate actions in Nigeria, not only on NDC, but also across all climate value chain. Then again, we are also looking forward to making it very robust and making a standalone MRV system for tracking the progress that we have made under the NDC. And this will be holistically integrated into what they call the NDC implementation framework and action plan that the government of Nigeria is trying to develop now after the submission of its NDC. So these are the progresses, these are the roadmaps, this is the way, the value chain of how we undergo activities of the MRV system. And this is not only to meet the obligation of the UNFCCC, but it's also to inform development plans and agendas of the present administration to make sure that there's an alignment between the climate action and economic development. Just 1 minute, because I'm trying to. So on the roles of the engineers, I'm really, really excited about this webinar today. I wished I was in a more comfortable place where I can speak at length. But again, I apologize again for this and the noise, the background noises that you people keep hearing. As I told you, I'm very, very much constrained with time. And this is very important for the DG. That's why he said I must be at this webinar today. Basically, there are too many activities or roles that the engineers can play to make sure that Nigeria achieves its nationally determined contribution. The very first one is on energy, renewable energy deployment in terms of designing, constructing, maintaining solar wind, hydro, other clean energy sources, improvement of energy access. So there's a lot of activities that the engineers can also champion in that regard and inform the government. And we need to also have a forum where those things can be decided on how best to go about it. Then on energy efficiency, the Global Stocktake has mandated every party to the UNFCCC to make sure they double the energy efficiency in their indices. So there's also a lot of things that the engineers can also champion in this particular subsector. Then on climate resilient infrastructure, designing roads, bridges, drainage systems, building that could withstand flooding, drought, and also extreme weather conditions are also the roles and responsibility of engineers. On sustainable transportation, you already know that promoting e-mobility was one of the mitigation measures that is embedded in the NDC 3.0. So we look forward to seeing a sketch on how Nigeria is going to do that with the engineers as well. On waste management and circular economy, I also heard that Mrs. Oshodi, I was listening in when she was doing presentation, although I was also in another meeting, but she has dealt comprehensively in that particular sector. On water resources management, the same thing. There is no sustainable infrastructure or activities without engineers that think sustainably. And carbon emission reduction and technology, development of and implementation of carbon capturing, storage, and other emission reduction technologies is very key. And one of the conversations that is going on in this bond today is that we need means of implementation. It's not only to communicate ambitious NDCs across the globe, but also we need to find the level of understanding where the Global South gives us the means of implementation, things like finance, good deployment of technology, and so many other researches that support the claim that we have submitted in the NDC. Likewise, on the agricultural innovations and also on the research and innovations, research and innovations and monitoring and also reporting, we can also do this with the Society of Engineers. Then I also listened in, I saw that Mrs. Oshodi has mentioned a lot of opportunities that this NDC poses for us. It is a win-win. It's not about emission reduction. It's not about emission reduction. There are a lot of opportunities that has been embedded in the Paris Agreement. One of those things is on the renewable energy expansion. There's a whole lot of opportunity where the private sector can dive in and maximize the benefits that poses. And again, the government is looking for finding a document, developing a document, what they call the risking of different sectors to encourage the private sector participation. Then again, on the universal energy access, which was informed by GST finding in 2023. So there's a lot of opportunity, mini grids, rural electrification, clean cooking that Mrs. Oshodi has mentioned, energy innovations. This poses a lot of opportunities. You know, green job for the youth, a lot of NDC implementation will create a lot of green job. In 2021, we did a rapid assessment of what the NDC could provide for the youth. And we found out that only in the energy sector, we have about $3 million, 3 million jobs created annually for the Nigeria youth. So it can be on renewable energy, it can be waste management, sustainable agriculture, ecosystem resolution. Then on smart agriculture, we cannot actually, in sustainable farming, agroforestry, value chain development, food security, and enhancement while reducing emission. And the beauty of it is this poses the whole of these opportunities while also meeting the target that we have set for ourselves. Opportunity continues. There's opportunity in the land, forestry and land restoration, which is very key. opportunity in carbon market and financing. There's also opportunity in waste management and circular economy, and there's also opportunities in youth and gender empowerment issues. And the beauty of the NDC 3.0 is that it's women sensitive and women centered. Gender is a huge component, and the visibility of that component can only be achieved if everybody comes on board and find out that what's the component of the gender, the measures in the NDC is actually very achievable, and it can be very much implementable by the right people speaking the right languages, and also having a synergy between ourselves to make sure that the target is actually actualized. Then on technological innovation, capacity building, and international cooperation, this also poses a lot of opportunity, trainings, research, and several other things, deployment of technology issues, exchanges, and best practices, and that is globally acceptable. So these are the opportunities that the NDC 3.0 poses for us as a nation. Then lessons learned during the development of Nigeria's NDC. We've learned early that stakeholder engagement is very key. It's not only the federal level. We made sure that we also engage states and subnational governments like the local communities and the local governments, and some women representing different angle of the community, and religious organizations. So those are the components that beautified Nigeria's NDC and made it very holistic in approach, and also very nationally owned. Then inclusive participation produces stronger climate policies. Inclusion. The parliamentarians were included, the CSOs, the civil society, the people, the special religious groups were all included. Combining top-down and bottom-up approach was one of the things we did. We didn't impose the sectors on all sector targets to all the sectors. They came up with what are the actionable activities within their mandate that could facilitate emission reduction, and that was what we integrated in the NDC 3.0. Then on reliable data is very critical, just like Madam Oshodi has mentioned. There is no NDC without the data. There's no nation, there's no building, there's no sustainability, there's no growth without credible data. So it is very key, it's very essential. Then on cross-sectoral collaborations is very, very important. We must champion cross-sectoral collaborations across all relevant MDAs. Climate action must be aligned with national priorities. We did not go outside the mandate of His Excellency President Tinubu. We aligned the climate action with the agenda of Mr. President and made sure that this NDC 3.0 complements what the development agenda is, so that there will not be seamless or so much pain in achieving that target. Then adequate timing should be allocated to NDC revision. This is actually very important. Then implementation plan should also come after the submission of the NDC, which the Nigeria government is actually doing working so hard to attract the needed funds to make sure that we have a holistic implementation plan for Nigeria. Then on capacity building remains a very big priority. It's not only capacity to develop the NDC, not only capacity to collect data, it's not only capacity to also be able to communicate this data to the right sources, but capacity to make sure that relevant stakeholders know what it is, what it takes to implement the NDC. So subnational government plays a critical role. Just like I said, we at the NCCC is just coordinating the activities of what the national would do to achieve the NDC. So we must make sure that we tackle down measures that every state can find complementary to the roadmap they do have already. Then on continuous, we have identified a continuous awareness creation, climate education, not only at the federal level, but going down to all the sectors, all the stakeholders that need this kind of education, even to the school children. Every individual has a role to play when it comes to climate action. And we understood that assignment from the beginning, not only putting down documents, but we're making sure that that document must be implementable. And I want to thank the Lagos State government for taking the lead, for championing their own individual climate action in meeting not only their obligations as a state, but also to make sure that Nigeria meets its obligation to the Paris Agreement. But one thing again, I want to encourage Lagos State is that when it is not reported, is assuming that it has not been done. So you need to work with the federal government, at the federal level, with NCCC to have visibility of what you are doing at individual states, so that we can collate that and inform the decision of the government going forward, and also meet our reporting obligation to NCCC. And political commitment is very vital. One thing we did when we started was to make sure that we educate the parliamentarians. We cannot be pushing out a climate agenda without educating the people who approve projects and programs for MDAs every year. So we championed what they call the greening of the national budget, which means that every budget that you submit to the National Assembly must have climate reasoning in it. It must potentially be reducing emission while championing economic growth. Then on financial strategy, this is very important. There is no climate action without finance. So domestically, we have to identify how we're going to source the finance needed for the NDC 3.0, which is 20% of what we have communicated, which is about 67 billion US dollars, representing 20%. Then again, there's also need for regular validation with key MDAs. There are sectors like energy, transportation, agriculture, oil and gas, industry, those waste and water sector. We need to do validation of what they have done, where are the gaps, what are the constraints, what are the bottlenecks, so that we can always bridge the gap and see how thoughts can be made together to champion progress. Then again, I would like to say this is where my slides end, and I thank you all for inviting me to this very beautiful meeting. I'm super excited to see if there's any feedback that I'll be reporting to the Director General, Barrister Tenima Jokotomi, who is very much interested in making sure that Nigeria is not only a talk show, but also actionable activities taken on issue that relates to climate actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chioma, for your presentation. I mean, I'm particularly appreciative because I know that you really had to go out of your way to put something together for us while you were dealing with another assignment. So we're highly appreciative of that. Please send your presentation to us. As I said, these will form part of a publication that the Academy will issue. And of course, you addressed the subject. We were seeking to, the key issues we wanted you to address. Thank you very much. Thank you, and I will leave everything else for the discussion session. So our final presentation is the in-house one from the Environment and Climate Change Committee, presented on behalf of the committee by Professor Sam Adefila, who has retired professor, a distinguished professor from both Ahmadu Bello University and Covenant University. I believe a dean of faculty. I think as I said, I recall interacting with him, I think almost 25 years ago. And now he is in predominantly private practice, although he continues to be heavily involved in the engineering profession, as well as including, and in particular, the Nigerian Academy of Engineering. So Professor Adefila, you have the floor, please.
Good evening, my chairman, president of the Academy. What's going on?
We are hearing you.
Oh, okay. Because I can't see my screen anymore.
We could see it. We could see it. Please proceed.
I can't, so I don't know what to do.
Can share from here, sir.
Share it so that I can, if I can see it. I can't just see this. I cannot see my screen at all. My screen just disappeared. But
Can
I
share from
can.
here, sir.
Can I just start? I can say most of the things which I have there.
Sharing from Secretariat.
No, what is? I think it's my laptop. I just cannot
This
see
Howard,
anything.
check the power source.
We can see your screen, Prof.
Okay.
No, we are not seeing the screen. Is that not the secretariat?
No, I'm seeing it.
I'm seeing this. I think it's the Secretariat screen sharing for you. Please proceed, Professor.
Okay. Please, Secretariat, please share the presentation.
It is shared already.
I'll just talk to it, even though I cannot see anything. But I think I have most of these things in my head. And again, the other presenters have virtually covered what I have, and they've also covered my apprehensions. The NCCC has particularly covered my apprehension about their role, because Nigeria is definitely committed to global climate governance, and therefore we just copied what they have. You know, we are not trying to rediscover the Niger, just copying what they have. You know, we have taken the UN FCCC as our national council for climate change. And then the COP, that is Conference of Parties at the UN level, has been taken up by the National Council for climate change also, so that all those kind of coordination which is done at COP, is done now at our National Council for Climate Change. And I'm so happy with the way our Madam Chioma presented the things which they do, because you find out that one of the greatest challenges which you have in this country is the coordination of those institutional mechanisms that are available to get things done. For example, data collection. A lot of data is available, really in the Federal Ministry of Federal Ministry of Environment, from the ESIA that are being done everywhere. And by the time you coordinate this with some works that have been done in, research works that have been done in a university, for example, you'll be able to get, we can start, putting together some of our data which we need for our use. Then, what actually is the challenge for us in Nigeria? Like I said, I really cannot see anything right now, but I'm just talking off head, really. What is on ground now is that we're at a crossroad with environmental challenges, climate change challenges, development and energy. We are heavily challenged in Nigeria, even though our contribution to emissions is just barely 0.2%, but the impact on us is far greater than that. And that's why we really need to, when it comes to financing mitigations, adaptations, resilience, and so on and so forth, we need to go back to the global body to take much of our requirements, from there, because we are not the main cause of what's going on, but it's our problem, not any other body's, problem anyway. So, I just like the other presenters have done, I have listed for us the I don't know whether the secretary is scrolling down as I'm talking. So I've listed for us the things which we need to do. And after that, we listed challenges, confronting us in doing these things. But we also listed the opportunities. And then we came up with practical solutions. And I'm so happy with those solutions that the Lagos State government, is already doing, because they are showing that these things really are doable. And the most serious challenge for us right now really is finance. And I'm happy with all kinds of different types of financing opportunities that have been brought up, like the international financing from international bodies, green bond financing, and all those kind of opportunities to finance the climate change challenges that we have. And I was particularly so happy with data that have been given to us by the NCCC on the various areas where CO2 particularly is being emitted. And I'm happy that it's not only CO2 that we are talking about, we are also talking about methane, which is actually more challenging than all these other things. And I'm sure we know that in all our villages and cities, we just leave methane to to just get emitted just like that from our agricultural waste, from human wastes, and so on and so forth. And states, particularly challenging Lagos State to start, introducing the conversion of waste to natural gas, which can be used. Because if we don't do this, they will come out as methane. But there are established processes that can be used to convert these. So we need to have a prototype somewhere, and I'm sure within 5 to 10 years from now, that thing could be implemented all across. So, like I said again, I'm sorry that I'm just presenting off head because I can't see anything. But I hope I've covered a reasonable part of my presentation on the screen. If my slides, can be seen, there are just about 13 slides there. And at the end, I've said that all these nationally, developed plans can be achieved. That our energy transition plan can be achieved, and it is usually said that you cannot eat your cake and still have it. I think they mean that you cannot have it as cake, but you can have it as some other things, and that is what is being done now through this circular economy and all those kinds of things, so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to leave for our children and our children's children what to partake in. One important thing is that I'm so happy that I think the global potential for solar energy conversion is about 350 gigawatts. I think I can, from what I wrote, and right now the conversion is less than 2. So there is a lot of opportunity, in that area, because we need more and more. We need electricity more and more, particularly with a new kind of life which we are living. And you will see that I've prepared my slide in such a way that, or even NDC, our NDCs, for example, cover about four of the 17 SDGs. By the SDG 7, which is all about affordable clean energy. 11, which is on I can't remember exactly what it is on, but 13 is on 13 is on can't remember them, off right now. And the last is 13 is on green cities and communities, which Lagos State, talked about extensively. And the last, SDG 13, which is on land and life, which is where all of us are struggling to ensure that we manage the terrestrial ecosystem that we have responsibly. So I have to apologize again that what I depended on to use is not available for me. I'm so sorry. So I hope I have done something. I have to appreciate all the people that have presented before me, and the things which I was apprehensive about, particularly data collection, has been talked about, extensively. And I'm happy with what NCCC is doing by relating with all the various organizations across the country, and particularly all, including the National Assembly, because they are the ones that formulate our budgets and so on and so forth. And NCCC has to find ways of relating to them to ensure that we have what we require from them. Thank you very much. Am I still being heard?
You're still being heard, Professor Adefila. But
I'm so sorry. I don't even know what happened.
I think you've closed your presentation.
I close it.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. At least did your message get across? Yes, your message did indeed get across. Okay. So thank you very much for that. Okay. With that, now we've had all the 4 presentations for today. As I noted earlier, it looked as if we would be overrunning our intended timetable, but I do not think that there is any harm in that, with taking account the value of what is being delivered today. So we will still take some time for questions and answers and discussion, especially since we have Chioma and the special advisor with us. Before I would at least, I would note a few of the comments already on the chat, but I would, in introducing these comments, note that there needs to be lots of enlightenment in that Nigeria is a large country, population-wise, and to a certain extent land-wise, but in particular population-wise. And the emissions we have today match or even greater than the emissions of many major European economies, such as the United Kingdom or France. We are at par with them on our emissions. They are combating theirs. Ours are going up. The major emission, when you take out the United States and China, which are the dominant emitters, and look at the rest of the world, we're significant. We're particularly significant in respect of methane emissions because of our extensive use of natural gas, which needs to be combated. So, and then of course, we are very big victims of climate change. Now, what I can see that has been raised on the chat before I go to individual questions, and I would like the two people we have with us to comment on are as follows. One, data. They both stressed data as important. And in looking at the COP reports as well, COP sees data as a big gap and as being important. One of the comments on the chat box to Lagos State was about what meteorological data they have. Well, I remember when I was in school, we had our own meteorological station in school, and I think there was data going in from everywhere on Met data in Lagos. But I think the Lagos Special Advisor can comment on that. Then for capital is critical, is the message that has been coming across, and that also came out of COP30, capital that is needed. If one looks at Chioma's presentation, the capital she identified as required, both that we get internally for unconditional climate action and what we get from abroad for conditional climate action are enormous. And I would like them to comment on that. Then the final one, which has been a big government issue and has to do with both climate and public health in the country, is clean cook stoves. We have massive numbers of childhood deaths from fossil fuel pollution, much of it generated in the home. So I would like them to, each of them to comment on each of those three, and then we'll look at other comments from the floor. I extracted those ones from what I saw in the chat box, but there'll be other questions for them to answer. We shall overrun, but like I said, I think it is worth our while. So perhaps well, I do not know. Chioma, would you want to answer first? Because it's 10 to 6 where you are, and I know you have another engagement.
Yes, I can do
Secretary, I'm
both.
back.
Yes, please proceed.
I'm back. Thank you.
Chioma, please proceed.
Okay, so because I'm hearing another conversation, so I was wondering if there's someone else who wants to speak up. I have dedicated 2 hours for this meeting, so I can as well utilize this as well. My meeting today ends at 9, so I can still be here till 7:30 before I join my next meeting.
Which
as you
is
said,
our own time. Okay, go on. Thank you.
yes, as you said, Nigeria is needing a huge amount of money to meet its climate obligation under the Paris Agreement, which is called the UNDC. The very first thing I said when I was discussing about the financial need, I said we did a rapid assessment of what the mitigation actions we embedded in the NDC will be costing Nigeria and the global community. And we get to this assessment to be $337 billion, which has been distributed into 3 components. The very first one is mitigation, second one, adaptation, and third one, Action for Climate Empowerment. And if you see how we distributed that money, 57.8% of that money, it goes to mitigation. Then 42.1% of that money goes to adaptation. Then Action for Climate Empowerment, which entails education, awareness, outreach, other element components required to meet our obligation, has about $500 million. Then conditionally, which means that with the support, the expected finance from our donors is 80% of the holistic money, which is about $270 billion. Then domestically, what we need from our appropriation, from our Green Bonds initiative, is about 20% of the needed fund, representing $67 billion, cut across all the sectors of the NDC. And this will promote a lot of core benefits and champion green growth, while also creating green jobs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Special Advisor, I wish, could you make some comments before there are other further questions on the issue of capital? Because one is looking at implementation and execution. Without capital, that cannot be done. Your comments on that? A bit more on clean stoves, and you spoke about data, where you stand on data. You have given, we're speaking of challenges, opportunities, and practice. And you have given us good insights onto practice and what you're doing in practice and how you're addressing the challenges, which is very enlightening. But could you please speak on those 3 items I've raised?
Okay, I think that, I can just start with the aspect of capital. And as I said, that for us in Lagos, we're really delving largely into capital mobilization by interacting deeply with our private sector, because we believe that the financialization of the local market would engender international financial institution to support us. The process or the model is to enable the MSMEs so that they also become ESG ready and they can also be able to establish their financing processes through climate literacy training, for them to be able to identify the right structures, for them to be able to identify the right products, green. There are MSME loans that are green, that are situated within and outside of the economy. But the readiness for it is also based on the level of knowledge. To be able to get them, our financial institutions, to also get them in readiness, so that the ecosystem is well endowed with the sort of knowledge that is needed. I spoke about the Climate Finance Preparedness Clinic, and I said that that is designed specifically for the ecosystem within the financial institutions, cutting across the commercial banks, the microfinance banks, the credit risk protectors, the insurance guys, all of the people who are within that space, to get them to be able to understand the right sort of lending instruments that will be required for financial flow, but also from a government perspective, to be able to create a strategic bucket for easy local financial instruments of all sizes, so that they're able to access, and they can also benchmark returns on investment on the level of expenditure that they embark upon. This also creates, that sort of confidence, investor confidence that will be needed both locally and globally as well. We also feel that there has to be across board some level of incentivization. This is where risk management, people management, behavioral management is all instituted. We need to take our culture, we need to take our mindset, we need to take our tradition into the structuring of solutions. And this is where incentivization also come in. Not continuing with the carrot and stick approach, just dwelling on enforcement alone, but also ensuring that there is a right structure that mobilizes, that motivates, and also, encourages the right positioning, the right framework, the right climate-friendly behavior across all the sectors and across all the entities within the economy. In the area of data, we have said that, there is, because, over 3 years, we have begun to see that the conversation on the narrative about climate change and climate action can seem a bit abstract, right? Which is the reason why we chose to simulate projects so that we can have POCs, we can have proof of concepts that can help people to be able to connect the dots and they're able to apply. And that's why conversations around effective and profitable waste management through waste valorization becomes, a component of the conversation. We then, begin to pull in the right set of stakeholders into that space in the community, from the obligatory mandates that are distilled from the global frameworks for extended producers' responsibility, for ESG mandatory contributions. We can begin to negotiate with private sector and use that as a form of incentive to deriving returns or monetizing their ESG performances through data tracking, through verifiable emissions reporting, through developing particular and specialized decarbonization pathways for them, helping them to see that across the scopes of 1, 2, and 3, they're able to achieve optimization, in their emissions, and they're able to measure and verify them against the sustainability performance metrics. That is a fundamental global metrics framework, isn't it? So that even when they get this reporting, they're investor grade. They have carbon accounting frameworks in them. They are digitally traceable because the technology through which we use this solution that we are about to launch is AI enabled. It is a framework behind blockchain interventions. And so trackability is easy. It's difficult to be able to malfunction or manipulate figures. The fiduciary processes are all backed. Even the Apex agency in Nigeria, the NCCC, they have given their support, and this is backed by the necessary articles, Article 6 under the UNFCCC. So all of the badges are being created, and we're ensuring that we're capping it, within that framework that makes it intelligent, that makes it high integrity. And, banks are becoming more and more at ease, and they're able to play with it. They can play with it. They can, pilot with it. And, across the sectors, we see that when injections of funds are beginning to be released into the economy, then the motoring and the oil, is able to roll out. I think the last question was on, you spoke about data, you spoke about the clean cook stoves. Thank you very much. So the clean cook stoves, like I said, we are sitting on the biggest and the most high integrity Article 6.4 project. It is a project that has been endorsed by the NCCC with every sense of pride. I can say that. It's also been endorsed by the Office of the President, and the Lagos State Governor is essentially the chairman of the governing body. Now, 80 million units are being designed to be distributed across Lagos, across Nigeria. However, 8 million is planned to be distributed. We have piloted 12 of them in Makoko as I speak. It is designed to be distributed for women in the low-income, underserved communities. It has a reforestation plan and incentive attached to it. The plan is to be able to replace over 4 billion trees over a period of 10 years. We have incentivization schemes of pay to plant embedded in that project. We also have millions of jobs that have been embedded to be created through local manufacturing, through distribution, through logistics, and the maintenance of this clean cook stove. The height and the niche of it is that because it is an Article 6.4 Paris Agreement Clean Mechanism project, all of the badges and all of the methodologies for Article 6 is embedded in it. And so the clean cook stoves are given for free. But it is given, it is tacked on with a pay to clean cook stove incentive, which means that, you know, the ability to be able to capture the data through AI-enabled blockchain meters that are on those clean cook stove, enable for us to be able to capture the data that is of high integrity. We're able to store it in carbon registries. We're able to dimension it according to the right methodologies, according to the communities, and we're able to, you know, connect. Now, because at this point in time, what we have as infrastructure for carbon asset management is essentially a carbon registry or a carbon framework. And we are yet to provide those program of activities as for us as a sub-national and even on a national level. All kudos to our NCCC that have been very, very proactive right now. They have done so much in enabling that the right infrastructures begin to be in play. And so I'd like to celebrate the National Climate Change Board, who have driven the aspect of the Nigeria's climate finance and carbon market framework, because they've started to look at how we can begin to operationalize the Climate Change Act. We need to start to build the Nigerians' carbon markets architecture, and through all of that, they have the handle, they have the sovereign ability to be able to establish the carbon pricing and the emission trading frameworks that we need. So with the programs and with the projects and the pipelines that we're developing right now, the clean cook stove, the 80 million clean cook stove, is working with the UK carbon framework, the carbon registry. But as we continue, it is our hope that once we are able to establish our carbon market framework, as have been, you know, driven by the NCCC, we can also begin to strengthen the technology that we have in the area of MRV, measuring and reporting and verification. And we can also begin to populate this registry with our investment-ready climate projects, you know, for the international capital market. But we're looking really good in Lagos, and we're happy that we're piloting this, and we're going to be spearheading it across the nation. It's more exciting because it is designed for our women. It is addressing their health. It is addressing their pockets, their economic pockets. It's addressing the deforestation, which is one of the places that Nigeria is highly placed. It is the deforestation, and, you know, the level of tree felling is so high as a marketing opportunity or as an economic opportunity. Statistics say that we're hitting about 300 billion of export in deforestation on an annual basis. So you would imagine the sort of distortion or disruption that we will cause If we're not able to transition people away from the market of deforestation or selling trees, selling firewood into something that is more sustainable, that is where our circular economy model also begins to thrive, because now within that program of activity for the Clean Cook Stove, we are channeling and developing skills in the conversion of sawdust, construction waste, and agricultural waste into briquettes. And those briquettes are then being used as alternative fueling models, alternative fueling components for cooking for the Clean Cook Stove. So it's a whole gamut of opportunity in terms of wealth and job opportunities as well, and skills that will be developed, for our young ones. And more importantly, because it is driven on a community basis, we are very, very confident that as long as we're able to get the sort of investment that we need, it will take us to that economic propensity that we desire. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Special Advisor. I tried to go through the comments we have on the chat box. I would just highlight what we have left. I noticed that Dr. Amakuri's hand is up. Are you there, Dr. Amakuri? You're muted. Are you there? Your hand is up. I want to close out the comments. Okay, if she unmutes, we can take the question. But the final things I have before we close out the question and answer session, first of all, which I think is, I was leaving this one till the very last, which is coordination with the Nigerian Academy of Engineering. That is there on the chat box of the entities, and I think particularly the National Council on Climate Change, coordinating with the Academy of Engineering on your efforts, that we have fellows within the Academy who can make useful contributions.
Keep the applause coming, please. Fantastic.
Sorry?
Thank you so much, Engineer Keita. This really indeed, to me...
Who is speaking? Thank you. Now, okay, so yes, and which I think Chioma should take back on coordination with the Nigerian Academy of Engineering in what is being done. That is from Engineer Alex Ogedegbe there. And the other thing that is directly for Chioma is to do with monitoring, reporting, and verification, MRV. The question was asked who is actually responsible, and I believe it is NCC that is responsible. And I think you are also the focal point there. So if you can give some enlightenment on that. Then finally, I think the two special presenters on carbon have addressed the issue on carbon asset management. But if there's anything they want to say before we close.
Okay, I'll be as
before we
brief.
go to that, Ambassador Ayo Olukoni, do you have a comment you're trying to make?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. My name is Ambassador Ayo Olukoni, and I was invited by Engineer Femi Dosumu, and I'm speaking to you from Asaba, the Mandela Gardens of 95 in Delta State. This is where I am. It has to do with desertification, 17th Dr. Newton Jibuno. But I'm speaking against the background of my own experience. I became involved in the climate change issues since 1987, sir. I was part of preparation.
Please be brief. Please be brief because we're wrapping up.
Yes, sir. I was also in the private sector, NASIMA. And the question I'm asking is, what exactly and how has the organized private sector been involved? Climate financing and action is a tough thing. Many of the funds are not there, but people cannot access it for proper for climate action. Can I ask, especially Mrs. Oshodi, in respect of what the Lagos state government is doing to engage members of the organized private sector as well as SMEs as well. Because I tried one time when I was in Nairobi in Kenya with Jeff, and we could
Okay,
get
Ambassador,
nothing.
we have got your message.
Thank you
Your
very much, sir.
question, you want to know how the private sector is engaged and integrated into this endeavor. I think
Thank you
that
very
is,
much, sir.
yes,
Yeah,
thank
that's the
you.
core issue, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. So, please,
let me quickly jump in, and I'll be as brief.
Please do. And the other question,
And I'll be as brief as possible. The very first one you asked is on coordination, coordinating between Entrepreneur and the Association of Engineers.
Yeah.
We have passed the era of development of policy, of NDC policy.
Yeah.
We are at the verge of its implementation. And we have identified all the needed elements that could make that implementation very seamless. The very first one is coordination with relevant stakeholders nationally and also subnationally. Then the second one is capacity building across all the needed stakeholders. The other one is technology deployment. And we also looked at data issue. And lastly, research. When it comes to technology deployment, this could be done by with the Society of Engineers, as identified in my earlier slide.
In Nigerian Academy is different from the society.
Nigeria Engineer Academy. Sorry about that. So they can help not only in deployment of the needed recent technology that speaks to the sector needs of the NDC. If you look at the NDC 3.0, it has identified the measures and actionable activities that we have to undertake to make sure that we achieve the target that we set for ourselves. So we are open for any kind of collaboration. The Barrister Teni Majikudumi is very welcoming. So if there are suggestions on what and how we intend to do this together, the government is open to that. On the MRV system, the government has a responsibility to coordinate efforts, but sectors has the responsibility to submit relevant data, needed data to. It's dual. Is either you submit to National Bureau of Statistics or you submit to Entrepreneur. We have the obligation to critique the data, assess it, do quality assurance and quality control before we translate that data into what they call the institutional data archiving system of Entrepreneur, which we are trying to operationalize as it is. So every individual has its specific role when it comes to MRV system. And that's the way we have done in the last past year is ad hoc way of reporting. But now with the Transparency Biannual Report obligated for parties under the UNFCCC, while we are more practical, and we're also trying to make sure that this is very much institutionalized so that we don't have all those lapses when it comes to credibility of data and use assumption, or also don't have mission factors for Nigeria. Then again, we're also looking at a very soft legal binding instrument that will compel stakeholders to submit the needed data to Entrepreneur, or because an MOU has always been a weak instrument. So we're working with the National Assembly to see that this is achieved at the most recent time. And again, on the private sector involvement, like I said during my presentation, the government has no capacity globally and nationally to achieve the NDC without the involvement of the private sector. It's not possible. It has never been possible in any way. But one thing government has identified as a loophole is that there are a lot of risks posed by climate action. And we're trying to develop a strategy plan or de-risking tool to make sure that the private sector is we are creating an enabling environment for their holistic participation. So again, the government has taken the bull by the horn by embedding what they call the NDC partnership supported us to embed an internal advisor who is championing the capacity building in terms of developing bankable projects to assess international funding, which Nigeria has no knowledge about. So we haven't been able to access GCF and so many other funding opportunities, because our project is always being refused because we're not meeting the criteria or how that project could be designed. So NCCC is doing much on that level. But one thing again is that you cannot take a horse to a dry river. So we are looking for money. There is no money for a lot of activities that we have itemized to do since we submitted the NDC 22nd of September 2025. So I'm still here in another 10 minutes in case if there's another thing you want me to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chioma, for an excellent presentation and also very, very enlightening responses. Before I hand over to the Vice President of the Academy for him to speak, I think the Special Advisor from Lagos can give us some closing remarks, and especially as regards private sector participation.
Well, thank you very much. I think that I had sort of alluded to that in my presentation, more because we are primarily geared towards working with the private sector to addressing these issues with climate change and its impact. Like I said again, people will follow the money. And from that principle, where there is a deficiency in knowledge, once we're able to mobilize capital and stimulate engagement or transactions, people will get to understand. And that's why we're working closely with financial institutions. We have also established relationships with producers and manufacturers. And the conversations have been with them reporting their ESG contributions in waste management, in energy renewal, in logistics, in effective logistics and transportations, helping them to see that in their operations, the capturing of intelligent data gives them room to be able to monetize their processes and their systems. I have just embarked upon a sustainability tour with the FMCGs. I've been to Dangote, I've been to Promasidor, I've been to Lafarge, and a couple of other ones like that, just to help them to see that we need to start working together in data collection, in data aggregation, in tracking for MRV, so that they do not see government alone as just chasing after them or for enforcement alone, but as strategic partners for economic growth. So that shared vision of helping them in their EPR mandates and also capturing their ESG performance gives us a leeway, in having these conversations and building up on it. With the financial institutions, we also see that the traditional linear way of finance is become so entrenched in the system that the new way of doing business or the new way of finance from a sustainable and green finance perspective is going to take a while for our bankers and our financial institutions to understand. And that's why the tool, the Climate Decarbon IQ, is a local capital tool that has been designed, benchmark against the global framework so that firsthand our banks and our financial institutions can begin to model and they can begin to interplay with this tool. The Climate Finance Preparedness Clinic is a program. It is an event that is happening in July, and it's positioned to demonstrate the new model of subnational climate finance readiness by Lagos State. And we're going to be mobilizing local capital tools alongside the international finance opportunities that we have been able to recognize and we've been able to consolidate. We also want to be able to establish the confidence for their coordination and for clarity as well. And that means that we will be talking about, lowering information and perceived risks that seems to be barricading their knowledge, and also enable the domestic actors to participate, in climate-aligned investment. So on one end, we're going to be preparing them so that they understand what lending instruments look like in the climate space. We're also going to be launching a climate defense and catalytic fund because, as in Lagos, we have a couple of funds like that. We have the Lagos State Security Trust Fund. We have the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. And these are PPP modeled, programs and vehicles that, that outlasts, any administration in itself, because the private sector is involved with them. But I think that where the gap also needs to be breached is in the deepening of understanding and knowledge. My colleague, Mrs. Chema, had mentioned that we need to be able to populate and drive, deepen the level of PR so that, the knowledge of what is being done is promoted as far and as wide as possible. All of this from a behavioral management perspective also has got a lot of catalytic effect when it has to do with money. So when the boys in the financial institutions are talking, when they're beginning to look at the greenery of their book balance, or they're looking at expenditures, or they're looking at facilities, and they're able to embrace green economy or green businesses or green concepts and ideas, it opens up that space for people to see, or for young people to be able to see that there are opportunities that they can begin to look into those sectors. There are areas in renewable energy, climate smart infrastructure, logistics and trade, digital trade, agriculture, aviation, investment promotion. All of these areas have a green, sustainable aspect and component to it. But it is with technologies like the Carbon IQ that we want to launch that they're able to grasp the tangibility and they're able to see the practicality of it. And, one thing about us in Nigeria is that just show me the way. Just, let me see how these things can be catalyzed. Let me see how it can be operated. And you will see different ideas, popping up from different areas. So I believe that, yes, it's been a long time.
Please, if you could round up, please, because
yes, it's been a long time coming. But we are very, very hopeful about the catalytic fund that we want to establish. We're very, very hopeful as well about the interest that we have garnered from the financial institutions across board. The CBN has also given their accent so that they can drive the directive from the sustainability board as well. So I just want to say thank you once again for this opportunity, because it just gives me the grace to be able to share what we're doing. It sort of gives some form of validation about what we've done and also the plans that we have ahead for us. Thank you to the team. Thank you for the organizers. And I have dropped my presentation on the chat. And I'm sure that the contact person who's been in touch with us, we can continue our conversation going on from there. Thank you and have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Oshodi. This has been everything, your presentation and your response to questions and comments has been extremely enlightening. And I personally admire your dynamism. So with that, and thank you to Chioma as well from the National Council on Climate Change, who has taken the time out to speak to us. As you can see from our program, we have overrun quite a bit, but I think it's been worth our while. I shall now hand back to the Honorary Secretary, who will call on the Vice President. Honorary Secretary, please.
Thank you very much, Thank you, Technical Secretary, for the expert moderation. It's been a very engaging and informative session. I'm sure everyone will agree with me that we've learned quite a lot. So I'd like to thank our presenters and extend appreciation to the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations for all the very informative addresses, and also from our own fellow. Thank you so much. And so I'd like to call on the Vice President to give the closing remarks and also the vote of thanks. Thank you. Mr. Vice President, sir. I hope he's... Yes. Please, can you unmute, VP?
Okay, what about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you very much. The chairman of this occasion and president of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, the honorary secretary of the academy, the honorary technical secretary who coordinated the various presentations that have taken place during this very, very informative webinar. Distinguished fellows of the academy who participated virtually, I would like to say good evening to you all, and thank you for your patience in participating in this very, very important, informative webinar. We have spoken at length, consistent was an important pillar of our strategic plan for the years 2024 to 2028. Unconsciously, perhaps many of us are not aware that there is a pillar there that says strategic collaboration and partnerships, as well as strategic policy and advocacy. Those are the two pillars, we have unconsciously addressed today. And I think this is very good because the strategic plan is supposed to be addressed every time we conduct an activity, and we can be able to exactly say which one of them we're addressing, so that when eventually we do the usual monitoring and evaluation of the existing plan, we can be able to provide exact information as to where we have gone far and what we need to do, and where we have not gone far and what more needs to be done. That is my observation number one. My observation number two is that when recently I was invited by the Renewable and Alternative Energy Society, of which I'm a fellow, as president during their conference that held in Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, I made one very important observation, that the failure to address effectively the challenges and manners of climate change merely arose from weak institutions of global governance. From the United Nations to the World Bank to the IMF to the various courts, in Hague, you find there is a clear, glaring absence of power to enforce, resolutions. The major emitters, that conspire to bring about climate change are the United States and China. These huge countries are signatories to the Kyoto Treaty, but it emerges, it appears that they don't respect provisions of that treaty, and the various, if you like, resolutions that arose from, arrival of that treaty. And in fact, they are behaving as if they were never signatories, to the treaty. And as such, countries have decided to come up with models of their own in order to address climate change challenges. This is happening in many European countries, and I advise that Nigeria should do the same. We should come up with a model, our own model, relevant to the sub-Saharan region of the world, a workable model that will address challenges of climate change, and perhaps other countries of the world can be able, in fact, to copy our model and implement the same in order to ensure that challenges of climate change are adequately addressed. And I think this suggestion was welcome because we don't have powers really. If the institutions of global governance lack powers to enforce the various provisions, that are there, to contain climate change, one country or two countries in sub-Saharan Africa can do very little, to ensure this enforcement. We don't even have the power to enforce. Okay, and so this webinar, when eventually it talks about what to do to contain the various challenges of climate change in this country, those should not be directed to only one part of the country. Climate change manifestations are there in every part of the country, and I think there is need for massive sensitization using available telecommunications network. I keep saying this, that the quickest way to provide information is through ubiquitous telecommunications network. Once these are available, then access to information about what to do and what not to do in order to contain challenges of climate change, this information will be available to the population, and therefore the rest is the various states should come up with an enforcement model in order to ensure we adhere to the various conditions or requirements that are necessary in order to keep our country safe as far as climate change is concerned. I still share this way of doing things, and I believe it is sustainable. Instead of trying to address massive funding to the tune of $350 billion, I don't know how this money is going to be raised. To me, it sounds as a tall order, but we can give it our best shot. I'm not discouraging the effort to be made in order to attract this funding. Some amount of funding, I'm sure, will be obtained, but not to the tune of $350 billion. In fact, the conference that held in Brazil did not go any near, the required amount. There were various pledges, but no near the actual amount, that was required, which is $350 billion. I was watching the conference with keen interest, and I think I could see that the poorer countries are really not happy with the outcome, and the richer ones are saying, better go home and think about what to do. In your various countries, you're not supposed to keep relying every time for funding, from us. Find ways of funding, your challenges, containment measures to aim at reducing your challenges should be, homegrown. Let's see what you are doing first before we give you help in order to contain these various challenges, brought about by climate change. So, but I think the webinar in itself is very, very important. It's quite informative, and I think fellows of the academy are now better informed about what is happening and how far we have gone in the various measures we are putting in place in order to contain climate change challenges in this country. And I'm sure we have the expertise that we can provide, if required, consistent with the quadruple helix model of our strategic partnership: the academy, the academia, government, and the media. Again, we are unconsciously implementing measures consistent with that important pillar of the strategic plan of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering. Thank you very much, Honorary Technical Secretary, for organizing this webinar. We appreciate you very much for keeping us abreast of developments in the climate change community. I would like to commend the various speakers who spoke so eloquently on this subject, including Her Excellency Haja Amina Muhammad, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, who gave the opening remarks and set the tone for this important webinar today. The other speakers spoke very well, insightfully about an important subject that is going to be with us for the foreseeable future, I'm afraid. And I think this serves a notice for, I'm sure, what is going to come, ahead. We have not had the last about climate change issues, and the Academy, I'm sure, will be setting the face as usual towards, putting measures in place to address the menace of climate change. Thank you very much all, the chairman of the occasion, the various speakers, for finding time to talk to us. We hope soon we will have another webinar, this informative as well, and which we will be able to share information about what is happening in our communities and in our society with a view to keeping those places, the communities, the society safe, for people of this country, wherever they live and whatever their circumstances. Thank you very much for listening, and good evening.
Thank you very much, sir, for the remarks and for all that you have said. Please, I want to apologize for an oversight. The president, Professor Raymond Bello, is still in the is still there at Secretariat, I think. Mr. President, please, I'd like to call you to say something about all that, all the presentations. Thank you, sir.
No more to say. I think the president has rounded up, but not to say that we want to appreciate all those who have been here, the invitees, the fellows, and the speakers. We appreciate Lagos State for the exposure and the tuition they gave, and then the SCCC for that. All I just want to say is that our Committee on Environment and Climate Change will further liaise and collaborate with SCCC to ensure that we can actualize and see how we can support you to actualize all these challenges and put them to action as much as possible, and also to support the Lagos State through the activities, particularly on the MRV aspect. We can do more to collaborate with you, the SA, on what can do on that, so that we can support your actions and make sure that all your activities are being well in place. So we want to appreciate your coming to give us all that is going on within your purview, and we pray that things will go well as we move on ahead. So we thank SCCC, and we look forward to more collaboration with the Academy, as well as Lagos State and other states, governments, as well as we see that things will go better for us as far as climate change things are concerned. Thank you, and have a very pleasant evening, everybody. We appreciate for coming around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, everyone, again for staying here, being active throughout. So have a very good evening. So it's time to greet each other. And I forgot to add that this is it's not the last assignment by our president. He still has two more public assignments before he hands over the mantle. So thank you, sir.
That's sir. Okay, go.
So please.
Thank you, everybody. I think it's been a very good meeting. Let us concretize the abstractions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.